Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. So welcome back to Generational Farming. We're here in the fall of year 6, I believe, if I recall. So basically I've gone through the entire year and figured there was really nothing specific to share. All I was literally doing was harvesting my grass. So I didn't end up selling any before today, so before I sold some, just looked at what I had collected, and I've got about 3.3 million liters of grass that obviously is going to turn into silage, and that is going to make a pretty good payday regardless of what I sell it for. So I am going to be working on that later, but in the interim here, I am going ahead and doing hopefully a quick contract. This shouldn't be too bad because it's obviously got a pretty good sized plow here, or cultivator, that's running through. So got another FM, they're collecting their grass, so they're not quite done with their collection yet, but they're going ahead and doing the work, and I'm going ahead and quickly getting a little bit of extra cash here, because if I do need to wait until tomorrow to sell, I can. Prices will go up. More than likely I'll be running some today. I didn't want to worry about it the other day because it just really wasn't worth the frustration of working in the dark. So this morning I kind of went ahead and did that. So I've sold a little bit, so the amount you're seeing here is based on some sales of that 3.3 million. But what ends up happening for the most part is obviously fertilizer and lime need to get put down each time to maximize what's happening. And so I've gone ahead and done that throughout the entire year, and that really, I think, got to be about $50,000 of supplies is what it looks like I'm doing when I do that. So it's certainly not insubstantial, and it adds up. But in the end, when I've got so much coming in as far as income off of that, it's pretty easy to justify, even if I'm getting a 5% increase on the space that I've got. That's easily paid for because I'm dealing with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm anticipating I'll be in really good shape, doing something like this, and cultivating makes sense. I've talked about in previous episodes how harvesting, if I'm interested in doing it, fine. Even doing this, it's going to take me a good hour or two, I'm thinking, to get this giant field done. And so typically you're making like five to maybe 10,000 an hour if you're having a good contract and good throughput, but it just doesn't compare to what you can do just working your farm. And even with all the contracts that are available, it just doesn't add up to enough cash to matter at this point with what I can do on my farm. So I am tending to focus on that work more than I am about this, but because I had a little bit of time, I did do all my collection of grass and everything earlier today. I just felt like, I'll take one here, and then rather than just have the chat with you while I'm moving silage back and forth, hoping I'll be a little less disjointed here because there will be less going on, because as I'm running back and forth, it's 3 to 5 minutes each trip, and there's just a lot of stopping and starting and loading and so forth, where once I get these headlands done, I guess they are headlands. This time I said it right. I think I've been using a different term that is not really technically accurate before, but once I get this headland run around 26 here, then it's just really going to be turn it around, put it on the GPS, and let it go. But the nice thing with cultivating is there's no outlay from me. So I'm absolutely not touching fertilizer or sowing contracts. There's just literally no purpose. The income was so low as it was, where it was $1,000 or $2,000 per contract, maybe $4,000 on a field like this size. But even with that, you're still spending that time to do it, and you're just not getting a whole lot for it. So the other thing that's happened is Field 30 has been purchased by the FM that's here. So they've got 3 fields now, and this is about the same size as my Field 2 there. It looks like, however, they're keeping that with crop. So they've gone ahead, when they bought it a few months ago, it had corn on it. I think they harvested that yesterday, and then now they have oats in it. So it looks like they're going to be running some crops through, perhaps double cropping, trying to make a little bit of progress there. But I know in chatting with them before, they were looking at doing something other than grass just to keep things a bit interesting. So I think the grass progress was just not interesting enough to help them, or to keep them engaged and so forth. So as I've said, I understand that people obviously need to do what makes sense for them. Let me make sure I'm lagging quite a bit. I don't want to run onto their field. Usually it's going to keep me from being able to work land I don't own, but as we found when they were plowing near my field the other time, it's not always the case. So I'm not going to take any chances with that. It's also why I'm running this way, because if I hit another field, it's not going to be another FM's field, and so I'm less worried about any issues there, obviously. So for those who may be visiting the channel and looking for other farming simulator content, I'm still working on the VIP series, certainly. If and when I have time, I'll look at the Mega VIP series. But right now, a lot of my time is spent here, and I am still waiting on the field in my main farm to come for sale. There's a lot of auctions coming up. I'm hopeful. I am, however, getting to the point where I'm about a little over a month away till I'm going to have another away from home experience or time. And so obviously jumping into something at that point is not going to be incredibly helpful. I'm going to obviously have an impact on generational farming and be gone for over a week. So that's again why I'm doing what I can when I can. But there you go. You can see the it's reserved even though I'm still on 26. It's telling me, hey, I want you to plow it, and that's not the field. So that's why I think I'd be pretty safe and not having any issue with any of the other areas, but who knows. So it looks like he's back, moving. I'm sure he filled up his trailer, and he's taking it, I assume, over to his silo to drop it off so that it can create some silage. Looks like he's got AI harvesting the cotton down here. So there are a few harvesting contracts. I think that one might have been 5,000 or something. So there's not a lot there. There's a cultivating there that has appeared as well. Well, maybe that one was there too. I don't know. We'll see. Because these are easy. They go relatively quickly. You obviously can't make any extra money on them, but they, kind of take care of just making a bit of extra income as we go along. Wrapping up the conversation, however, about just other farming simulator things on the channel, I'm waiting for Field 24. I have started to toy with the possibility. Not real thrilled about it though, so I'm thinking I'm still gonna wait. So otherwise I think I'm just gonna be frustrated if I don't. But I'm toying with the possibility. There's some smaller straight fields across the road from Field 25 where I'm at that might work, but they're not that size, and they're also kind of not in the space that I'd like them to be, so who knows. But the longer I wait, the longer I kind of get the itch, because I'd really like to be doing something there as well. And now that I've kind of gotten the hours and the workload here done, because what I was really concerned about was, given that it was taking me in excess of 6 working hours to do the work here every couple days, that was just making it impossible to do anything else. I've now gotten it down really where I'm very close to 3 hours usually. Some of it depends on just how specific, or how much I'm trying to get near the trees and so forth. If I drive around really loosely and don't worry about too much of the edges, I think I could easily be very close to 3 hours. And so doing that is reasonable, because then every other day I could always be doing something on the other server for a bit, and that would work. Because again, I'm also at the point with the income coming in from the grass, as I expected, that I just really am not worried about any of the other aspects of this at this point. Like I said, there's a temptation there, because it's like, ooh, I could make some money cultivating, but I'm gonna have a feeling that by the time I get this one done, my cultivating will be maxed out, and I won't really have much of an interest, because I think it's just gonna take so much time that it's still barely gonna be worth it. Even if I get this done in an hour, it just can't compare to running loads of silage for an hour instead, as far as what I could make. And so if I'm going to spend an hour on the server, I'm going to do it in ways that move things forward. And now that I've gotten the harvest down to 12 hours basically for everything, it's not really that big of a time span then to then take those for another 3 or 4 hours to offload it, and my entire year is 15 or 16 hours of work, so that's not too bad compared to what I was doing before. Alright, so we're 30% complete. Obviously it's gonna take me a bit. I didn't really pay attention when I started here, but I'm sure I'm at least 15 minutes in, if not 20. The episode's not been running continually because I've not been talking non-stop, so whatever the time this episode edits into doesn't really apply, because I've been moving when I've not been showing it anything on the episode here. At this point, I'm feeling pretty good about my prospects. I think I'll finish pretty strong. Next year's a full year, so next year's going to operate the same as all the other years have. I'm going to pound every harvest I can out. I did just lime the field before the last harvest, so about mid-year next year I'm going to have to put lime on the field again. The real question, as I said, is am I going to have to soil sample another time before I leave the server? I'm thinking that's going to be likely, but I don't know. But what I've really started to think about is what happens in that final year, because again, we're going to be pulled off here in Winter 1, which would be, in this case, tomorrow, if this was the year we were leaving. And so, for example, doing the harvest today like I did, I'll get a little bit of throughput into the silo, but not much. And at this point, like, if it runs the way I've had it, I probably won't even process all the grass in front of it, so I'll probably end up dropping the last harvest or two out of the cycle the last year. I don't know for sure. I'm still debating if maybe it's worth it and just selling raw grass. I don't think that would be the case. I think grass is far, far too inexpensive. However, it's still money. And so the question really becomes, because I think we'd be talking about basically 30% of what I can sell silage for. And that's probably best case. Might be closer to 25%, but when I'm talking about the output that I've got, that might still be a couple $100,000. So it might be worth it. So I could harvest and then just, as I'm picking up, just immediately take the grass to sale instead of throwing it into my silos. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do based on what's happening. But as I mentioned, basically about 2 weeks after we leave this server is when I'm going to be gone and not be able to proceed. And we're also, unless something else changes, going to be delayed before we can start on the second generation because they're trying to stagger the times a bit. So I may really have just a few days, at most probably a week, before I have to leave that I'll be in Generation 2. So there won't be a lot that I'll likely be able to do, but obviously anything I do, I'll share with you folks here on the channel so you can keep up with what's going on. So I think at this point, I'm obviously going to keep going here, and then I'm just going to determine if I'm going to start selling some of my silage or if I'll do that later today. I'm definitely going to do some sales today, I'm pretty sure. And then we'll just continue for the next 3 days through the winter with the goal as last year of getting everything done before the spring, mainly for the pricing at that point, because at this point it seems to have settled into a consistent cycle where basically my first harvest that's available to me is May, and then that lets me get 4 every year. So I'm assuming that's what's going to happen, unless there's some really strange crop calendar or something on the next generation server. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. Hope you've at least enjoyed getting some of the information. If you've liked this, I certainly would appreciate you hitting the like button. I'd also appreciate if you wouldn't mind subscribing, trying to get to that magical 1,000 number, and every subscriber helps. It doesn't cost you anything or doesn't obligate you to anything, but it does give you notifications when I put anything new up on the channel so that you can keep up with whatever I'm doing and providing out in the community. And more importantly, it helps grow the community so that we can get more activity here and get more chatting, which will open up possibilities for doing other things on the channel. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to let you go back to whatever you're going to be doing next, and I'll see you next time.